There she is.
It's a funny thing about great movements. One will usually spawn another. And the radical movement was about to have a baby.
We were all talking about, how we had all in one way or another been affected by watching the Miss America pageant. Did we compare ourselves with her, etc. And then because we were also political people, we couldn't help noticing other things, that we were getting tear gassed, we were getting busted, arrested, beaten up just as much as the guys. And then the two of you would come home afterwards. This happened to hundreds of couples, and he would lie out on the sofa being really exhausted because he'd been busted and tear gassed, and she would go and make dinner.
We never expected twins. My wife was frantic at first. I tried to help, like doing the marketing. That isn't the instant I buy, she said. Try it, I said.
Television commercials are often a faithful reflection of our attitudes. And this is how American women were perceived in 1968.
You be a good little Maxwell housewife and relax a little, and this marriage might even survive twins.
I had nothing resembling a feminist consciousness in 1968. As a woman, it was very hard to be heard. Many of us only got into the inner sanctum, and I think that I was as much in the inner sanctum of SDS as any woman, but we only got there because of who our boyfriends were.
We were all planning the Chicago demonstration, and I remember saying with real nervousness, I'm not going to Chicago. I'm going to organize a demonstration against the Miss America pageant in Atlantic City instead.
You told this to this group of yippies?
Yeah, and there was this dead silence, and they all looked at me as if I was quite mad. And they said, Robin, you can't be kidding. I mean, you're a real radical. I mean, you can't waste your time on this women's stuff. I mean, you'll miss the revolution. And I was very conflicted, and I remember just thinking, I'm going to do this. And I went to Atlantic City. The press picked up on it, sometimes in mythic proportions. The whole bra burning myth, for example. Bra burning never happened.
No more cattle, no more pain, no more trying to hold them back in vain.
We did guerrilla theater. We had a huge trash can, and into it we threw all sorts of symbols of women's oppression. But we, in fact, never burned bras.
Women, use your brains, not your bodies.
The civil rights movement had been anchored in women's leadership. I mean, those were women, basically, who backed King. So you get women beginning to say, wait, there's got to be some other way to change this. It might take longer. It might be less melodramatic.
But it won't go violent.
It won't be so bloody, and it will last.
Feminism took more than a little getting used to, as did the next big event of 1968. In October, the real Miss America, Jacqueline Kennedy, took a new husband, Aristotle Onassis.
People were horrified that this icon of America, Jackie Kennedy, this symbol of restraint and the woman who really brought elegance to the American woman in many ways by her example as First Lady, was marrying this shipping tycoon. It was another example of how anything could happen in 1968, and everything did.
60 Minutes, Volume 1, Number 1, new opening, take 2.
In the fall, CBS News premiered a new kind of broadcast.
Good evening. This is 60 Minutes.
An oddment called a news magazine. An early guest was Richard Nixon.
The important thing about a public man is not whether he's loved or disliked, but whether he's respected. And I hope to restore respect to the presidency.
Who can the American people trust? And that's the word, trust, to lead this country.
The answer was, we trusted Richard Nixon, and a new cycle in American politics began. But 25 years later, the man who was Deputy Defense Minister of the Black Panthers is a congressman, and their communications secretary a professor of law at Emory University. The student for a Democratic Society is an attorney and activist for the homeless, while her cohort teaches screenwriting at, of all places, Columbia University. The feminist just finished a stint as editor-in-chief of Ms. Magazine. The McCarthy campaigner became an author and gay activist. And the radical leader of the anti-war movement is a state senator from California.
I have a feeling that the fate of this 60s generation is not over. No matter who wishes it to end, it's not over.
It was Christmas time, and as Apollo 8 headed toward the dark side of the moon, we could have been forgiven for thinking that we had already spent a year there. After a new president is elected, though, there is usually a time of calm before the inaugural, and that was true even in this turbulent year. There was even some good news. The North Koreans released the crew of the USS Pueblo in time to spend Christmas with their families. But there was also bad news. In this one year, 14,000 more Americans had been killed in Vietnam, almost as many as had been killed since the beginning of the war. And though Richard Nixon claimed he had a secret plan to end the war, the death toll would double again before it was over.
For behold, I bring you good tidings of great joy.
And this is how we ended 1968. This was the first such view of our entire planet. From up here in space, of course, it looked so peaceful. You can't see the war, the hurt, the poverty, the injustice down below. For CBS Reports, I'm Mike Wallace.
Experience CBS News.
The economy is finally inching upward.
We'll try to put this all in perspective for you. The CBS Evening News, team to cover your world. CBS.